In the hush we assemble, in the fracture we listen. You have arrived at the aperture. This is the car park.
About 2.5 months ago, they hit me all over on national and international news. We had the big floods up here, and everyone was just staring at this woman. The flood was hammering her van, and she was asleep. So I walked straight through the whole flood. And someone turned around and video recorded it, and it ended up on in the newspapers and all over TV. And then
look that up and find it. I'm sure we've seen that.
I tell you, I try to explain to them as a Māori, I don't see that as stuff. I see that as a responsibility. Like I said to them, as a Māori, well, I'm Kaitiaki. And as a Kaitiaki, I take that responsibility seriously, even in my work. It's for me, it's about taking care of everyone. For me, tino rangatiratanga is about being able to take care of the people that you care about. And I've always been about hapū, and then I've extended onto communities. I work with both sides and bringing them together to get the best resolutions we can. Because I always tell them that if you want the community to, you're supposed to thrive, what we have to do is we have to align ourselves with I suppose our time enduring residents, which are the hapū. And if we take care of the hapū then takes care of the community, and then we create that circular motion. And that's the reason why I've managed to sit in the seat and get so much done. It's because of that. When I'm sitting in the seat, there's no brown, there's no white, there's no black. Everyone is the same. And so it's just the way I am.
Totally. I do have a question. Can you share how your sort of whakapapa led you into activism?
Oh, it's quite easy, that part. So, being born and raised here in Te Taitokerau, then from birth, while I was still in the womb, well, then I was pretty much going to meetings with the elders, and so I grew into that space. I was born into that space. And so I then my whakapapa back into my nani Whanakupa from out in the Hokianga. And so, Mom was saying my family's been there since the beginning. I think in 72, I was also getting dragged in my mother's puku into the first big hikoi in 1972, which was for language. And then, of course, 75, well then I was holding my mum's hand walking in that hikoi. And basically every hikoi that's been, I've done. And so the last hikoi I done was actually, I was actually the Kaitiaki for the national hikoi.
So a lot of your activism is also carrying a lot of your tūpuna and your ancestors, namely Whanakupa.
Yeah, you say. The flag bearer in 1972 and 1975 was followed by the name of Cyril Chapman. He's my cousin. And so it pretty much is my whakapapa.
Do you feel the pressure or the privilege of both being connected to her name and her mahi? Do you feel that pressure or that the privilege as well?
When I look at it, there's a lot of things around Nani Whanakupa that a lot of people don't know. So a lot of people look at Nani Whanakupa, but they don't look at her husband at the time. And if you had a look at who her husband was, it was John Cooper. And John Cooper was actually responsible for a lot of the land confiscations that took place, even stripping my hapū of 38,000 acres of land. And so that hikoi wasn't just about her. It was about, I suppose, it was also a journey for Nanny Funa to, I suppose, give something back because her husband had taken so much. That's why she came up with the idea, not one more acre. It's because of her husband's actions. Because a lot of people don't realize that John Cooper he was actually the registrar up here in the north. And so all those land confiscations that were being carried out, it was his signature on the end of them. It's not really privilege because it's just a part of who I am.
Views on learning about your whakapapa? Obviously being connected is the best way, but how did you feel when you reconnected with your whakapapa?
To be honest, it felt strange. Because growing up in state wolves and all that, well then you're a lone wolf because you don't want to get close to anyone because that person can turn on you. You're set in a place where you have abandonment issues and things like that. And so stepping back into my whakapapa and I suppose being in that space, I need to go away and I need Māori, I need to tau Māori, well then it was completely foreign. And all things that are foreign and new, well then you either push away from it or you run away from it. And so it took me a long time to actually sit there and to be honest, there was a lot of I suppose hurting there, and then for a long time I blamed my parents. I hammered my parents with it until I sat down and then I realized that, hey, they were just as much a victim as I was. And so it took me 40 years to finally come to terms that it wasn't their fault. And the one thing that I love about it is that I got to tell them that. I got to tell my dad before he turned around and then went across the veil.
How does knowing your whakapapa strengthen your activism today?
For me, it grounds me. It creates a connection with me. He papa tu nuku te whai o te tangata. Mother Earth is the mother of us all. I need te pito o te o papa. It allows me to connect on a level that strengthens me. It allows me to draw from, I suppose, from Māori, from the Māori of the whenua itself. Because when you know who you are, and you know how you connect, well then you come to that space where is that you're never alone. And I suppose it's a liken to when you start at the waharo and then you cross the ate and then you put your first foot on the step. Now you're in a almost then you go through the go through the pari and then you reach tapuwai. Tapuwai are the footprints of our tūpuna, and if you look either side of us, well then you see you have the popos running down all the way to the Poutaku Manawa, and it's meant to be a message for us all. That message is simply that when we walk through life, we're never alone, and that's the power of whakapapa. It's reflecting our whare tūpuna. It's reflecting that when we walk through, I suppose, through life, we are never alone, and the strength that comes from that. When you don't have that, I suppose, that whakapapa, it's like you're floating. You know where you belong, but you're still floating. You're a leaf in the wind. And so that understanding of your whakapapa, it doesn't have to be, when I tell people, when they ask me about how much they should learn about their whakapapa, I tell them all you have to know is your mum, your dad, your kōrero, your nanny. That's enough to ground you. The rest will The rest will come in its own time. And so
those people out there that are still feeling quite lost, who may not know who their marae or where their marae is or who their people are, what advice would you give to them?
My advice is if you know your grandfather, know your nanny, know your dad, know your mum, all you have to do is speak their names, because sooner or later someone's going to come along and hear it. And through hearing that, well, then you'll find that they'll link with them, and then the rest will just become water under the bridge. When I went to Waiuku, I didn't know anyone there. I knew that my mother's roots came from there. And so I just went to the pub. I didn't get a drink because I was drinking lemonade. You know, I was looking at me drinking lemonade. And they came and asked me, "Oh, where you from?" I turned and said, "Oh, up north." And they all started giving me this aggro look. And then this fella walked through with his cowboy hat on. He was over at the bar, and then I remembered what my mother said. When you go to the pub, look for an old man. He's going to have a cowboy hat on him. Just ask him if his name is Bronco. So, you know, I mean, walked over and went to the bar, looking at him for about half an hour. And he goes, "Oh, what are you looking at?" And so I walked over and said, "Is your name Bronco?" And he goes, "Medium, my son." He lined the whole pub up, everyone that was in there, and introduced me to them all. They were all my cousins. And so, yeah. And that's all it needs. It just needs a name. That's all you need. And if you don't know where you connect, the rest will fall into line.
And how can communities sort of open their doors more widely to those who are seeking reconnection?
I think the easiest way is to show you. I convinced my community to acknowledge the mana whenua. And so the communities and the hapū became one, and they set that this pohia behind them is, I suppose, as a means to acknowledge the mana whenua, but that pattern at the top represents, that's one of the hapū's ancient patterns, but all the way down through it tells the story of how the communities are all evolved inside of this place called Moerewa. Because of that, it brought our communities together. That's why all the old people are all there. And so, you know, communities, they have the power to accept things that other agencies, organizations may not. But it's through, I suppose, the connection between, I suppose, communities and whānaus, or even hapūs, that is what allows, I suppose, for wider recognition. And so this hapū in particular wasn't acknowledged in any of the different organizations, and now their name appears at the...
What do you think urban Māori can do to help sort of bring awareness to or work towards dismantling those systems, those colonial systems?
I think for our urban whānau, it has to leave the marae space and go back to the home space. Indigenize your home space. The reason I say that is because I really hate saying this, but our maraes are turning into businesses. Our maraes are costing too much to actually go home to and sit in wānanga things. And so I think for our urban whānau, and even for our whānau who are rural, there's still a lot of our rural whānau that haven't taken that step. For me, it's about indigenizing your environment, your space, and not just a part of it, but as much of it as you can, and grow it just like you would grow anything else. Ultimately, Our learning should never be determined by someone else. Our learning should, I suppose, be determined by how much you'll learn. I'm not talking in a monetary sense, I'm talking in a time sense. It should be determined by how much time you would want to dedicate to it. It doesn't just drop out of thin air and land on you. You have to, I suppose, take that time. You actually surround yourself with I suppose, our culture. Because it doesn't matter how good someone is at teaching or guiding. If you're not truly ready, then you won't receive it. Yeah.
So how do you think urban Māori can contribute to the decolonisation, of the re-indigenisation of like urban spaces in our cities, for example?
I think when you look at indigenising a space, the first thing that we always lean to is our reo. And saying what we used to do is we used to just go along and then put the names of our natives out there so they were in plain sight. We started to put our real names on everything that we could see. It's when we come to understand our real, we come to understand that it's not just a real. There are things that are written into our real messages from our elders, even in song. And so, understanding the language is vital. It's not everything, but it is vital. Also, I see that a lot of things are already occurring in the cities. I see landmarks being given back their tūpuna names. I think, the one thing that I always say when I'm teaching my babies is make the learning fun. Because I've been to a lot of whānau and it's been too serious, and when it gets serious, well, then a lot of people they lose interest really quickly because it just goes straight over the top of their head. But if you make things fun to learn, well, as they say, those who play together stay together.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, take care and keep up the mahi.
you
Keep
too.
an eye out for your
Awesome.
awesome.
It's always.
Thank you.
Ai, pō mari. Ngā mihi whānau.
Whakapapa.
Ai, me koe hoki.